I wanted to ask you what it was like working with us on Xenoglphs. And
Oh, you were dreadful. It's just dreadful, prima donna, terrible. Didn't ever reply to anything. No, we couldn't track it. Wait, that wasn't you. Never mind. No, it's again in your case, Omar. You had somebody who says, "I'm going to do this thing,"
Yeah.
and they go and do it.
Yeah.
And the ability is available now for anyone to do that in a way it
Absolutely.
was not before. And it's just kind of like, this is my story. I want to do it this way. I'm doing it about this. I want to turn it into a fish, a vegetable, and a cruise plane. Tenacity is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And imagination, excitement, and all that coming together, I really like it.
That's what it's about, and PJ still uses the stuff you taught him to this day, and he's cranking out, and his style has changed so much. He's evolved. You look back at how he evolved from this first issue now to
Yeah.
5 years later. It's kind of crazy.
That's it. Artists tend to evolve in stair steps, where you'll see someone producing work that's almost the same,
Yeah.
and then it's like overnight, sometimes in the middle of an issue, all the interior analysis of work, the coordination of eye and hand and brain comes together in a way where in the middle of a page or overnight there's suddenly a new artist and they can't go
Yep.
back. They can lose skill with age and time or just sloppiness, but they can't entirely go back. Something has
Clicked.
intrinsically changed.
Yeah.
But it's never a slope. It's always like stair steps where things come together, they make a jump, and then they go for a while and jump again.
Why do
and
you
it's
think
magic.
Why do you think it's stairs instead of a slope? Like what's because they'll do an issue in a specific style and they want to stay consistent with that, and then they'll learn something new. Is it that?
Well, no, I've seen people change in the middle of it. It's like something's. We talk about the idea of clicking sometimes. When you learn something clicks together. Suddenly, a technique that somebody has been fighting to master suddenly comes to mind. Suddenly comes together.
Yeah.
Okay, when I'm working with young artists, I send a lot of them off to calligraphy school, and I'm not joking. I tell artists who have a less than confident, less than structured, less than strong line, say, don't draw for 2 weeks. You don't draw anything figurative. Go take a calligraphy course. Find any calligraphy YouTube tutorial you can find. Do nothing but calligraphy. So you're breaking it down into the motion of the hand, making the shapes repetitively. And I say, go at it like a martial art. Go watch Karate Kid first, and then do the wax on, wax off thing.
Yeah.
That you go at
Consistency
it until you're about ready to bleed. Because then you start coming back and noticing, here's a letter S,
Yeah.
here's a little letter J, that all those shapes and forms you've been making are intrinsic to the calligraphy of creating a face in line work the way we do in comics, because what we do is not fully representational artwork. It's a certain amount of cartooning, which demands, out of the professionals, it demands a command of line. Even if your line is loose and sloppy, when you lay it down like you know what you're doing, lay it down with authority, it comes across as very strong.
Yep.
The difference between professional and amateur is often how shaky the line is when you lay it there. So
It's about the confidence sometimes.
all the times the guys will go, really, 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 I have to do this? And I said, no, seriously, this is not, I'm not going to be watching you.
Yeah.
But this is the skill set you need to
Build.
bring up. Because often what they're attempting to do on the page is beyond the literal ability of their hand to hold the pen. And you start building in that muscle memory of pulling all those pieces and lines together. It's like your signature.
Yeah.
You do your signature at first and you're kind of hesitant, you're kind of working out the forms, and then a few years later you're going swish, swish, it's all done. Your hands know the lines. And the biggest, we lost years of, we used to have a big apprenticeship tradition where people who want to come into the industry is sort of almost trained under the tutelage of someone else and then skip off on their own in small assignments. And then the field expanded so wide that every working artist was being used or was opting out and not doing as much work. And so we had to accept everybody at even an amateur level to get anybody to draw pages at times. So the tradition of apprenticing has somewhat been lost, and people are learning from everybody else's online tutorials, and they're learning quickly, but they're not spending a lot of time doing it deeply and repetitively. And I think we want to bring back some of that craftsmanship there. And again, you have computers.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, you have a machine that will do a shortcut for you, and it isn't necessarily necessary to learn any of these skills. You just need to learn how to use the computer mouse. And
But it's still
net result is the same.
But it's still practice no matter what, even if it's...
There's still, technology will probably catch up,
Yeah.
but there's still something more pleasing about a human hand making a mark on paper than anything generated entirely on a computer. But I think, again, the I have a new iPad with an Apple Pencil.
Yeah,
you know, that all suddenly there's a
Technology's-
magic to the way you can lay a line in that
Yeah.
didn't exist before, and we're going to get to the point where it's indistinguishable.
Yep. And it's interesting because it's like you even go, it's already getting to that point now where sometimes you're like, oh, is this digital or print? How do you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because the end result is still beautiful if they're a great artist, and it's both have their benefits. You know, you talk about digital versus like with a pen and paper. You can sell the original artwork if you're doing it on pen and pencil, and or with paper and pencil, but you can't sell anything digital. You can sell like a digital comic, but then they're buying the whole book anyway.
But then we go into the idea of what is the artist's motive
Yeah.
for creating that artwork. Is it just to have the item to sell commercially in Artist Alley?
Yeah.
Or is it the satisfaction of bringing it to life the
Yeah.
way they envisioned it
Yeah.
best?
Absolutely, and different people have different
Mm-hmm.
opinions on it, and there's also benefits to creating it without pen or paper, because if you're able to do it on digital, you can do it anywhere. You can,
Mm-hmm.
you can really do it on the bus, on a plane, and you can really go out there and create wherever you want. You have that freedom, and you can literally sit down for a few minutes, do it instead of having to bring the sketchbook around with you and really stop and find the place and make sure no one knocks it over. And it's also cheaper. Because if you, in the long run, if you're buying supplies all the time and stuff like that,
If you take good care of
if
your,
you take good care
technology,
of your
yes.
technology, yes. Owning the technology is hard, but you can borrow a friend's iPad or something, whatever it is, and you can find a way if you really want to make art.
And again, when I do seminars, Where Do Ideas Come From seminar at usually at like WonderCon, Comic-Con and all this, and one of the things I try to stress is you don't have to do this for money. You can just do this out of a personal self-satisfaction.
Yeah.
This can be a technique to use in your personal journal. It's an art medium.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be a commercial art medium.
Yep.